Hi, this is Elizabeth. I haven't been able to upload for a while because life has not been very kind to me, but I have been wanting to make this video for a while, and I think it's very relevant right now. This video is about how to make activism more accessible for autistic people, and I think this is especially important right now in the aftermath of the election. It's important that activism continues, and a lot of young people, especially, got involved and interested in activism over this summer. And I think it's very important that we are able to continue it sustainably afterwards. Sorry, my cat's under the blankets and he just moved and everything on my bed moved. It was funny. So, you might be wondering, why is it important to make sure activism is accessible to autistic people? Well, one, autistic people exist in every other group of people that exists. And we are affected by all sorts of different issues. So it's very natural that we're going to want to be involved in them. And related to that, since autistic people often feel very strongly, have very strong senses of morality and right and wrong, we can make very good activists and we can be very helpful. Yeah, it's a nice thing about us. So it is important that autistic people are included and valued in activism spaces. A good example that a lot of people will know about is the very famous now climate activist Greta Thunberg is autistic, and she's been able to use her strengths as an autistic person to help continue, well, you know what I'm saying. Use her strengths as an autistic people to contribute to her activism through dedication, being able to focus on one thing, etc. So, one first thing that I think is very important is social skills and social norms and trying to read between the lines. I'm not sure if those all make sense being put together, but they do to me, are things that can be very hard for autistic people. And disclaimer, not everything in this video is going to apply to every autistic person because we are all different. So these things don't all apply to every person. But those things can be very hard for autistic people. And so also, when we are raised to think something a certain way, and other people say, no, that's not right, or certain things like explaining microaggressions against certain marginalized groups, or why is this thing harmful when it doesn't seem to have a clear explanation in the way you've been raised, can be confusing. So it's very important and helpful when people are willing to explain those things and not assume that questions are asked in bad faith. Although it is very important when we discuss this that we acknowledge that the burden of explaining those things should not be put on the people who are most affected by them. Like, for example, trans people should not have to explain to cis autistic people every in and out of their identity and answer questions that may seem rude or hurtful. So allies, in that case cis allies, should be willing to take on the responsibility of answering those questions in a way that makes sense. And another thing that these two things kind of coincide is we all have very different ways of learning, of course. Everyone does, but especially autistic people, and how we understand something. So, like, I go to a different topic. If you're talking about systemic racism, for some autistic people, the most helpful thing that you could do is show statistics on discrimination and how they work and anecdotes. Whereas for some people, hearing personal stories and the emotional side of it will be more helpful. Although for autistic people in general, although I can't entirely generalize, statistics and facts are very helpful for most of us. It's the easiest thing for our brain to log. So if you are trying to help someone that you know is autistic understand things, try to understand what helps them learn and what is easiest for them to understand. In general, I've been thinking about this. I think it would be a good idea, is to have an activism partner where this can apply to autistic and non-autistic people both, but I think it would be particularly helpful for autistic people who want to understand things better but have a difficulty in neurotypical spaces where they are not accommodated, where you help each other figure out things, where maybe they need more statistics, so you are willing to research those for them, and then they are able to provide their very helpful perspective, and things like that. I think also that's a good idea in general because it helps accountability. You are able to continue the momentum of your activism instead of it being a one-off thing. And the next thing that I think is important, that I know is important, is making sure that like marches and groups and protests are accessible. A specific way that they can be made more accessible for autistic people is having information like online or on a flyer that tells if there's going to be a place where it's quieter, where they can calm down if they get overwhelmed. Making sure that other people that are organizing know how to handle, understand how to handle meltdowns and sensory overload if something should occur. Being able to hand out earplugs or sunglasses, other things to help sensory input not be so overwhelming is very helpful for a lot of people. And in general, accessibility info for all disabled people should be available for those types of things. Although I understand that when things are more severe, sometimes that can't take priority because of other safety reasons. So this video was kind of short and choppy, but I have said the things that I think are important, and I hope they were helpful to you. And if you have any questions, I would love to be able to answer them for you in the comments. Thank you for watching. Yay!